Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
Where you been?
Drunk. Wendy? Darling? Light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death?
Yeah, so fuck up and die.
I had this, I've been trying to drink less energy drinks, so my,
Oh, dude. Yeah.
my coworker gave me like, those fizzy pop things you put in your water, and it's got like caffeine and it's got vitamins and stuff, and you just like mix it in your water, and they're like in these little canisters or whatever. And, one of my baggers saw it, and he's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "It's drugs." And he's like, "Oh."
Drugs.
I'm like, "Yeah, well, no, it's actually you put it in your water." And he's like, "Oh." And then I'm like, "But I snort them." Just like instead.
Dude,
and I'm like,
I
wonder if that would work.
we are the same person. I literally used that same bit today. I have like an electrolyte powder that I put in water.
Yeah.
I put it in. A coworker was like, "What was that?" And I'm like, "Pure amphetamines."
Yeah.
I'm gonna make coffee so fast.
Why do you think I'm in such a good mood? And I have
No, I'm in a terrible mood.
intricate latte foam art.
Yeah,
I know
I'm gonna draw a horse and like a pistol, and I'm gonna draw a snappy little girl in it with pigtails.
This
braids.
is the Cult of Cinema Knowledge podcast. I'm Levi over there, and that's Jordan over there. We're both jacked up on amphetamines. What? Not really. I wish. What?
Yeah.
What is the most intricate coffee foam art you've ever done? Or the one you're most proud of? I've seen you do some. I've seen you do quite a few.
Right. Well, like now I can do. I've done like a double winged swan before. That felt pretty bougie. That was fun.
As opposed to a single winged swan.
Well, there is, yeah. So there's one where you do a really big.
It's like the
you do like a big
profile.
wing off the side. Yeah, profile, and then the other one's like it landing into water or some shit. Yeah, those are fun.
That
or
is
doing
bougie.
like a bear. You like pile the foam on top and put like little eyes and like some foamy ears. We've gotten wild. We've got some fun.
That's cute.
Fun stuff going.
You should start doing like from the movies we watch. Do like a foam and then post that on the Instagram. Like just
sick.
do Jeff Bridges with his one eye patch. Just like, I got the grit.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, your coffee's gritty.
Right. We're obviously talking about coffee. No, we're talking about Jeff Bridges' eye patch.
Yeah, welcome to the coffee podcast.
Coffee corner.
It's fair trade.
Yep. It's funny because I don't even drink coffee. I don't remember the last time I drank a cup of coffee. It's been months.
It's been about 4 hours for me.
It looks like it.
I drink coffee. Yeah, I'm like, what, man? I'm ready to go, dude. Let's giddy up and gallop.
I know we're giddy up, and Jordan's full of some grit. Some grit over there. I'm so sad because since I'm laying off the carbs, watching this movie, all I want is grits. That's been my go-to breakfast, honestly.
Oh yeah, some grits.
Fuck with grits. So obviously we're talking about True Grit. Is what we're talking about.
Coen Brothers 2010.
The remake of True Grit, the most recent one, not the John Wayne one.
And not the sequel either. Did you know that they made a 1976 or 78 sequel to True Grit? They did, and it's about. I think it's about like, the fuck's it called? Like Rooster Crocken or something. It's like him. It's
Cockburn.
Cockburn. Yeah,
Cockburn.
And then Rooster. Yeah,
it's just like the adventures of Rooster Cockburn, and it's just drunk John Wayne, just like abusing minorities. Like, what is it?
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, and we've talked about another John Wayne movie. So it's like the only John Wayne movie I think I've ever seen, or maybe Searchers 2. Anyways, so it's like we did Rio
Bravo. 2 years ago, I think now.
Was it 2 years ago? We'll go listen to that podcast.
It was like a year and a half
well.
It was two Novembers ago.
I'm sure it's definitely sounds crisp. But
I know. Well, I was talking to Westerns today because for once I actually asked my coworkers. I asked most people didn't know, but I asked this one I hope if you listen, Tim, hey, but he's kind of a hick kid, and that's not a slide to him, Tim. But he's got a rockin' mullet you'd appreciate.
You're in a Utah. You're in like a far out town of Utah from Salt Lake City.
It's not even far out.
Kind of hicky.
No,
you know what
hicky.
It is.
It is.
It is. Get over yourself.
No,
I know,
dude, we got
because you guys got like a main street. Doesn't mean it's.
Yeah, I got everything. It's like
I know, sure.
There's like 80,000 people here. Anyway, so I saw him and I'm like, hey, you like Westerns, right? I can tell you like Westerns. And he's like, yeah, I love Westerns. And I said, you've seen True Grit? And he's like, I have seen True Grit. So we talked about it a little bit. And for once I felt validated that I could talk about a movie we watched for the film club in public.
You and Tim and I have seen the movie, but how about the audience? Let's give them a little breakdown and a little synopsis so they know
seen it.
What they're actually.
Just kidding.
That is
maybe it was pretty popular at the time. I feel like it was, especially when the rise back of like, modern Westerns, especially, I think was really popping off then. So here is the synopsis that I hastily wrote, by the way.
It's your style, baby.
Hastily wrote it today. So let's see if this tracks. Okay, you ready? So True Grit follows Maddie Ross, a 14-year-old girl in frontier America, tasked with taking care of her late father's remains when he is killed by a gunman by the name of Tom Chaney. With all the other affairs taken care of, vengeance is the only thing left on her to-do list. She enlists Reuben Rooster Cogburn, a drunk old curmudgeon, to assist her in capturing the escaped fugitive, which I didn't write in here, but also he's a deputy marshal. He's an official federal marshal.
He's a highly trained bounty hunter.
I made it sound like he's just some drunk from behind a bar. Anyway,
and that's kind of what they do too. But
this is how they make him look like. But he's like, I'm the law. So just before setting off into the untamed wilderness, Maddie meets LaBeef, a Texas marshal also on the hunt for Chaney for a crime committed elsewhere. Cogburn and LaBeef set off, leaving Maddie in town, suggesting she is too young and too innocent for the perils that lie ahead. However, she quickly proves them wrong by catching up with them and joins them on their journey. Cogburn and LaBeef argue, and LaBeef goes his own way, leaving Maddie with Cogburn. The two of them get the drop on a pair of country bumpkins who reveal Chaney, now teamed up with the Ned Pepper gang, have been through not 2 days previous. The two men are killed in a struggle, but Maddie and Cogburn plan an ambush for when the gang returns. LaBeef shows up first, blowing their plan and getting caught in between the crossfire of Ned Pepper and Cogburn. LaBeef survives the struggle, and the three of them team up again. LaBeef and Cogburn fall out again, though, once the trail goes cold. Just as they are all ready to abandon the pursuit, Maddie stumbles across Chaney and is captured. After a drawn-out conflict, Cogburn and LaBeef are injured, and Ned Pepper and his gang is killed, including Chaney. Maddie, however, is bit by a rattlesnake, and in a hurry, Cogburn rushes her to the nearby town, barely making it in time. Years later, we see Maddie lost her arm and never saw any of those men again despite her efforts. And that's just life, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get some beautiful voiceover from
if you felt...
Maddie.
It was good voiceover, but if you felt like that synopsis kind of petered out, it's because the movie did as well.
Yeah. Right. But in a calculated way.
No, it's fine. I mean, I do feel like that. So this was only my second time watching it, and I feel like that was largely one of my large complaints the first time I watched it. Now, watching it now, I understand its purpose more, and it's not as of a letdown as I remember it being, but it does take the fizzle out of everything, and the way the lasting impression it leaves on you is not the same as the impression the rest of the story. Like, tonally, I feel like the rest of the story wants to leave you with something else, but then the ending is like, but never mind, and fuck you, because that's life. Like,
I'm nodding approvingly, and now the audience at home can hear this. I am vigorously nodding because I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. And I feel like where we watched Departed and were kind of blown away because we had a strong lasting impression
the
of
ending
that movie.
Stuck the landing.
And we watched it again, Right. And so it's like that's kind of I mean, this has been said by tons of auteurs and several directors throughout the years that like a movie is just a series of scenes and that's all people are going to remember. So it's like if you can have a few good scenes, you can pretty much make a movie go into infamy. What is that? Oh my god, infamy. And so it's like you can have people always remember a movie. They only remember one scene, everyone can agree on it. It's fantastic. And with this movie, the only thing I remembered, because I've seen this before, the only thing I remember is him being like, his like eye patch was distinctive, and everybody's like accent in this was really fun. Like they did a great job. Like you could tell they're having a really fun time with this. And then it's like that ending scene, just the climax where she falls into the snake pit, and then they're riding off in the horse, and it's just like the trashiest green screen in the world, and it's the most anticlimactic thing I've ever seen the Coen brothers do.
I'm not vigorously now.
Yeah, and it's so like this is what I was left with when I first saw it. Is like I remember going into it thinking it's going to be a Coen brothers movie, it's going to be fantastic, and then I remember being like, oh wow, this is like really tame, it's really soft, and I don't remember it being PG-13 because I just like always do like. They're like grittier stuff as usually are.
Yeah, they either do R or they do PG. It's either
or PG, right.
It's either There Will Be Blood or it's Raising Arizona. You know what I mean? Like
right, and it's like, and they'll do like PG soft 13 or whatever, Right. So, anyways, they definitely like they do that, and this movie fits actually really well in the 13, like PG-13. When it does violence, it does it so Coen Brothers. Like they're so fun. Yeah. I
was actually really impressed with that they got away with some of the violence they did.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they showed so much restraint elsewhere. And honestly, I think because their name helped them a little bit with the studios.
It's so fast.
The sellability.
I think it's fast.
But it's realistic and it's unflinching.
Right.
But it's not like overly gory, but it's like you see, and it's not a cut or anything, but you see point blank in a 2-shot him shoot that dude in the head, like in the face, and like his blood splat the wall, and it's super realistic and it's sudden, but it's that sudden outburst of violence.
Well, like their one, like you get one F word. That was kind of their like they get one gratuitous violent scene because he fucking lest we forget that his partner cuts his fingers off.
Domhnall Gleeson is in it again. He's in this too.
He gets. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and so he gets his fingers cut off, stabbed in the chest, and then that dude gets his face blown off. So it's like that whole scene is like super ultra violent, and then and then that's kind of it. There's no more violence throughout the rest of it. I mean, there's like people get shot off a horse.
You get quick shots and
that's nothing
a quick spurt of digital blood.
Right, and that will never. PG. There are PG-13 movies out there that are a fuck ton more violent. So it's just kind of like interesting that like that one scene they were like, we're gonna like really really pump it up and give it make it. It felt really visceral and tonally. It's like I'm like that's the Coen Brothers movie that I'm like, and even I was here to see.
Yeah, for sure that and like honestly, it wasn't that violent, but it was unsettling on how real it was. Like we were, it did a good job putting us in the protagonist Maddie's shoes of like. There's this world and she's like, she's kind of too big for her britches, but she's filling them out best she can. And she obviously proves that she can live up to the challenge, but it's still new and shocking for her. And she's still caught off guard by the violence and stuff. But it's like when you see the dead body hanging from the tree initially too, like it is a dead, they don't shy away from showing this dead guy half decomposed. His face is mostly skull now. Birds pecking his eyes out and shit. Like that's that grim because they very much are like this is Indian territory, and then it's like we see one Native American guy and he's nice.
I know that's one thing about this whole overarching movie. So just to get back to the point, when I first saw this movie, I was super underwhelmed. Watching it this time, holy flip, dude! The writing. So I literally would have loved to watch because it's kind of one of the longest like inciting incidents. Like the inciting incident is like literally the first scene. The dad's killed and then, he runs away. That's like the inciting incident. And then the rest is like her getting prepared to go kind of on that like second inciting incident, if you will, or the second, like the hero's journey after that. But it's like, dude, the Coen brothers could have masterfully created just a movie, like kind of Deadwood style or something, where it just takes place in that one town, and it's her just going around trying to get her
100%.
affairs in order.
100%.
And I would have been there. I would have been in a fucking seat.
Dude,
I would have been waiting.
It's funny. It's funny that we are like sharing the exact same brain on this because it's like.
Dude,
The first time I watched
that
it, I was
first half
expecting
hour.
like this cool, gritty Western, and it had its moments, but it kind of left me wanting, especially tonally. But this time watching it, like, I was just obsessed with the dialogue. Like, I was obsessed with, like, literally probably, I don't know if it was my favorite scene. I'll have to think on it for when we talk about that later. But when she's bartering with the guy about the horses and stuff, like, that's one of the best. It's one of the best scenes in the movie.
It's a double whammy because when she comes in and she's like shows her like the first, like she bewilders him, and he's like, oh, all right, I didn't know we're negotiating now, and he's like, she's all, we made a fine deal, and he's like, well, I didn't make a good trade. I'm getting horseback that I can't sell, and he's like, I'm probably gonna give him to the glue factory and shit. And then he's like, you're not gonna get the saddle. And I love how they like do it. And then she goes, and about my father's saddle, and then she wins. It just cuts.
Yeah.
Like, dude. The comedy in this too
this
is
movie's
off the charts.
This movie's way too funny. Like,
it was so funny. Like that scene, I was busting up.
like it shouldn't be, because sometimes I feel like it did not work for it. Because
no, it totally made me like, that's like, as a Western, I'm like, God, this is a dumb Western. But like,
Literally,
that's like characters, I fucking love them, dude. And like, when she rips everybody apart, dude. When LaBeef, like the first time she sees LaBeef, it's like immediate. She's just like, you're a child, you're dumb, I don't give a fuck who you are.
I know, he's like, I could have kissed you in your sleep, but instead, blah blah blah, like all this shit that he's like. Instead, he's like, you'll be out on the streets, and he's like, well, what? And she's like, one sounds just as good as the next. Like, it's like, I'd rather be out on the streets and getting raped than kissed by you. But even the scene, the brutal, violent scene where he shoots that guy in the head, like it's borderline up until that point slapsticky. Like when he cuts his fingers off and he's like, no, like, you know. It's like, zoinks,
it's the noises too.
Yeah.
And like how it's edited. They are comedic editors, so it's like they're really good at editing like that. And it just, but like, I just loved it, the dialogue this time. I actually got to like focus on that because like you said, I came into this movie expecting like that, like the ultra masculinity of a Western, that super like the Clint Eastwood style where it's like kind of, he's like more quiet. But in this, I'm like, everyone's kind of running their yap a lot, and I kind of like that. I like that, like we're getting a lot more like quippy dialogue, like,
and it's good dialogue. It's good, and it fits the characters really well because it's all laid out very simply, and the story is very straightforward. You know what I mean? So you're just getting good characters just having interesting interactions. It's not necessarily like super deep, but it's like you have that conflict within the characters, even when they're kind of jiving on each other. And then, you know, and Maddie's like, who wants to hear the story of the nighttime caller or whatever?
The nighttime caller, right? She's like, well, but that's where the Coen brothers do really good at weaving in a character's insecurities, and like, because like Maddie's super confident, and she's like, I've been on a coon hunt. And he's like, this isn't a coon hunt. Like, this is like, you know, he's like, this isn't you and your dad going camping. And, you know, because she's like, I'm used to sleeping on the ground. I've been to a coon hunt. And he's like, this, you're a little girl. This isn't like, you know, this is going to be real life danger, if you will, like going into a territory that's, you know, not super safe, and like, interacting with people that aren't safe and like that are violent, you know. And it's like, and vengeance is always kind of interesting, you know, and like, it's like, it's never worth it, like trying to get vengeance. And so they look at it as like, it's a job, you know, it's a bounty.
Right.
And then, you know, we've got like the duty to the state and whatever, all that crap. But I mean, dude, they're cops, but it's like, it's just wild. I totally expected this to be a lot more, because the last movie that the Coen brothers did was, or not last movie, but they did No Country. And so I kind of was like, there was 3 years between, and they did Burn After Reading and A Serious Man in between. So they were hitting just straight comedy, nothing like true. That makes sense. Nothing violent. And so then this came out, and dude. Yeah, no, Burn After Reader is amazing.
Serious Man's pretty good too, but
I've never seen it, so
it's it's all right.
Yeah. But then it's like they
it's not
when this
best.
came out, this did great, and then this is kind of one of my another part of my a little trivia, or just, I don't know. This movie was their highest grossing film, and so I can get to the money minute later.
Really?
And it was their highest grossing film and their most popular film
To this day.
ever. To this day.
What the
Isn't
fuck?
Isn't that fucking wild? I think it's because, like me, it was the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
The Coen brothers were like consecutively, like 9 years in a row. They were
true.
like in the Academy, just like they were making like really high grossing movies.
Way. They won Best Picture a couple years before that with No Country. Like, what the fuck?
That's what I mean,
How's this
dude.
how's this movie make more money?
I think that's it. I think people saw No Country. No Country was the
I guess that's
powerhouse of a movie.
Like
everyone got in expecting that.
They were kind of they were household names up to that point, but then after No Country, they really cemented themselves as like, oh, these guys are a force to be reckoned with. These are the filmmakers of the future. Blah blah blah.
Well, like it just kind of like they were like
That
they were in
blows
that
my
real,
mind because
they were in that real mature period.
Dude,
you
you
know?
ask anyone.
Nobody's
Ask
seen
anyone.
this movie.
You literally ask anyone who even remotely knows who the Coen brothers and be like, name me one Coen brothers movie. No one says True Grit. Not one person.
Nobody. It's kind of funny. It's like that's how it works though. It's like Avatar and Titanic. Those like huge grossing movies. They're never really the greatest
Fuck,
movies.
dude, this is blowing my mind. It's like literally Fargo, Big Lebowski, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Like, how are those?
So,
Raising Arizona. It's
like,
like a lot of
Big
these
Lebowski's
movies
like
that
the
I
one.
love, I get. You know, a lot of these movies I love, I get. You know what I mean? Barton Fink is not everyone's favorite movie, but I fucking love Barton Fink. Hudsucker Proxy. No one on earth has seen Hudsucker Proxy.
No one's seen that, and it's great. Or even like Miller's Crossing, which is a kind of their like that's their movie that like was like, oh, we really got the buzz now. Like they came out with this like I don't know, kind of like a cool, gritty like
that's
noir.
That's their only movie I've not seen.
Oh really? Yeah.
Miller. I'm looking at it. I've seen every other one. Inside Llewyn Davis, Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
See, and dude, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs is really cool. But it's
Caesar's
like,
good, man.
Yeah,
that blows my mind. Sorry, I just like I can't even believe that. Like,
isn't that? I knew that was going to be that fact because I didn't think you knew that because I didn't. When we came into this, I was like, I thought, oh, True Grit, it's got to be. I know it's popular when it came out. I remember it being like a big deal. It got a lot of media attention.
I mean, it's got a great cast too. It's got a good crew behind it. I mean, like Jeff Bridges is pretty big at the time too.
He just won the Academy for Crazy Heart like the year before.
I was going to say Crazy Heart came out around this time.
Yeah, so we were kind of we were in the mood I think for Western, and that's kind of why the whole like
there was definitely
American
kind
climate.
of the resurgence. I mean, Western. We've talked about this before. Western's really never gone away.
No,
but it's obviously died in its popularity. But it's like there's always a big spike every decade or so of like really Westerns kind of popping back up, and this was definitely that time. You know what I mean?
Well, dude, you know what's wild? There's only been 9 Westerns that have been like nominated for an Academy Award ever. Like, even though it's such a saturated market, like for Best Picture, there's like nine nominated for Academy Award Best Picture, and the market's super saturated. So I kind of feel like, like comic book movies now, it's going to be it's a thing that'll always exist. I think we'll always have Westerns, and I appreciate that. I do like Westerns. Like when this started, I was kind of just like I was in the mood, and I think that might help a lot too. But it really was just that opening monologue over the like just the classic Coen Brothers lighting, and that slow push in, and it's Roger Deakins.
Yeah.
So it's like it cinematically is fucking beautiful. And do you know what's kind of tragic but amazing too? This is Roger Deakins' last film that he shot on film. On like 35.
Really?
He hasn't shot on film since. He's all digital.
It's because he doesn't have to, but
no, right? Like it doesn't matter.
He invents the rules as he goes along. And looks good doing it too.
Yeah. So it's just kind of that was my David fact. I wonder if David knows that because I was like,
yeah. I mean, he is a pretty Roger Deakins fanboy, but yeah.
Yeah.
That actually surprises me that Roger Deakins shot this because other than a couple scenes, I thought the cinematography was kind of boring. Other than a couple scenes, but it makes sense because he shot a lot of their other stuff. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
and we talked about him with color grading and basically changing the world with color grading with Will Brother Where Art Thou. Go listen to that episode.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he didn't try that. I think he's got like, he probably at home, he's got like a tab and he's like, oh, Coen Brothers colors. And he just like takes that file out and he's like, all right, this is what the Coen Brothers are looking for this.
It's got some great scenery. Cause I mean, but then again, it's, you can make beautiful Western scenery. I mean, most Westerns have beautiful cinematography just because
it comes with the territory.
It's hard not to when you're shooting beautiful vistas and scapes, horses riding across empty plains. Like, it always looks good. It's
right.
like
you got
it's
the golden
hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
got that sunset.
That's surprising because other than that first shot on the boarding house with the snow and a couple noticeable exceptions, there are some really good shots in there. But
I feel like the first half hour is the strongest part of this whole movie. It's like her just going through the town and and what's cool about that town? It's 100% real. Like, it is. It existed.
Like, it's not just like
there's no CG
sets and like just faces.
No, it's all real existing. It's oh crap, I can't remember what town it was. I didn't write it down. It's in Fort Smith.
It's the
Texas,
the town
area.
From High Plains Drifter, the one they painted red.
Yeah, right. That's a real town. But no, dude, it's like, this is real. All they did was like repaint the facade. It's like they repainted it and they set dressed. It's like nice. So it's like kind of cool. Like, the whole town is like.
Well, that's good because it's like, watching this movie, I was definitely like, oh, okay, like, they're really utilizing. I'm gonna wait, but I imagine the budget was probably more modest than you'd think because at the end of the day, it's like they got a really good cast and all that, but it's just like they're mostly filming out in location in the woods, out in the desert.
Well, and it's small. It's a small cast after you get out of the town. It's 4 people and and like 10 people total when you leave the town.
And speaking about like, it's weird because it's like they paint. I can't. This movie. The thing I think I don't like about this movie the most, other than the ending, is like tonally. Like we've said, it's like I do enjoy this movie overall. I think it's a good movie. I like westerns. It's a lot of fun.
I would never like if someone was like,
this would be a movie I would recommend to someone getting into westerns because it's simple. It's not like overly contemplative. It's not like,
and it's heartfelt enough that like you don't have to. There's no complication.
It's not the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, where it's like he's like, do you ever think about suicide? You know what I mean? He's like shooting into the lake.
That's amazing, dude. That's the greatest. And like that, and it's funny. It's like Roger Deakins is a powerhouse. So it's like, we did Assassination of Jesse James with the Coward Robert Ford, and we've talked about that movie. And I'm like, that should be like a once a year bonus because I can watch that movie. So good. Like we could talk about that movie for half an hour just right now.
November is Western movie month, so we'll be back. We'll be back with more westerns.
That'll always be a movie we have to watch because I just love that movie so much. So where that movie has all of the human element. Yeah. This movie is definitely just kind of a straight. It's like
driven
this is
by
supposed
its
to be like your
plot.
classic.
It's got good character. Yeah, it's very much like a classic romp adventure. But that's the thing. It's like they make Dick Cheney or Tom Cheney out to be this like dastardly villain, and you see him and he's got that black mark on his cheek. He's like, I
love it.
But then he's the comic relief. Like he's hilarious and goofy and. For me, because he reminds me of John so much.
He does. No, and that's Josh. So that's the whole reason. I remember when this movie came out, I wanted to see it because
he looked
No Country for Old Men got me like
Josh
got
Brolin.
me just I got like aroused for Josh Brolin.
Got hard
and
for
so when this came out, and I was like, oh my god, Josh Brolin's in this movie. And then I kind of got like, you get a little bait and switch because it's like he's only in it for maybe 20 minutes. If
he's barely in it. He's great in it because he's like
10 lines.
He's whiny.
Yeah,
like, you think of him as it's an interesting juxtaposition of like they're painting him as like this criminal cunning man. Like LaBeef is like, I found him to be quite cunning. I can't catch him, even though that's obvious. It's his own feelings and he's hyping him up.
Right. Yeah.
Which again leads to the comedy. Like this movie's much more funny than but it feels like it also wants to be serious. And it's not like, I feel like it's not a good balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
it's noticeable.
It's noted. Like I feel like it's one, like, because it makes sense that the last several movies they've done have been comedies before this. No. It's got comedy pacing. It's got the way it's got like punchlines and zingers and the way it's edited. But then it's like, it will just try and be really serious. Like, it wants to be taken serious. It's got this dour looking color grade and the cinematography, and the music is very basic. It's just like, we want you to feel, I want you to feel this. This is an emotional scene, so feel emotional. I got the violin and all that shit.
They definitely use this score. Like, I was watching a interview, and like they were talking about how like they were like, oh, we love the score because it's very traditional. It feels. It's
one way to put it. Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, it does, and that is kind of, I don't know. That's like, it feels dated. I don't know. And,
serviceable. I mean, it is serviceable. It achieves its job, but I don't like being told what to do by a score. When it's like, I don't like when a score sounds like fucking stock footage. Like when you pull it, when you listen to a score and you're like, this sounds like every other score ever, of like, dun, 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 like this is an adventure scene, and then this is
totally like, here he comes to save the day.
And then it's like, here's the sad scene where you're supposed to feel sad, and then here's the scene where it's suspense. You know what I mean? Where I feel like they've just pulled it off of Shutterstock or something.
They're like, dude, they got like royaltyfreemusic.com, and they're just like, they're like 10 steps away from having him like walk downstairs, and it's like beep 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 beep. Like, just tiptoeing around. I don't know, but
not my biggest complaint. But it goes into the fact that it's just like the rest of it didn't know, because it was like the ending. It leaves you with the super bleak feeling, the super like, and again, like westerns are generally fairly bleak and nihilistic and self-reflective, and like it's usually about like, you know, being defeated in the face of change, and like, you know, like feeling like you're left behind and like all this kind of shit. But this one, it's like the whole time it's like this adventure romp with like bursts of dark violence, and then like this super dour ending that is not only just kind of takes the wind out of the adventure, but that's what it leaves you with. And I feel like that's what you end up leaving the movie with, because it ends with the shot of her being like, and then I never did see him either, and she's walking away with one arm and out of the cemetery, and you're like, all right, so what was the point? Why?
Right.
And seeing her with her one arm and seeing who she turned out to be, I guess, but it's just like, and I don't know if that's accurate to, I've not seen the original film.
Well,
or
so
the
that
book.
was actually, I wanted to, so that I was just about to say, that was something I learned, is they said, don't, like they told all the actors, don't watch the movie, we're doing it off of the script based off the book. So this is just like a strict adaptation of the book.
And when we do,
which is totally a Coen Brothers move. They loved it. Yeah.
Well, we talk about remakes because this is remake month, and we've had the discussion about like, when is it an adaptation, when is it a remake?
Right.
And I would say, like, it can be both, because an adaptation is like the first work, but if it's like already an existing film and they're taking another stab at it, I'd say it works as both. Because it's not going to necessarily be remaking the original film, but it's like the original film in most cases is part of like the film lexicon and the reason for remaking it. Because if they knocked it out of the park the first time, why fucking bother with another remake? Like Old Boy or something.
And that,
you know,
and I think,
speaking of Josh Brolin,
we have a cinema ramble on our Patreon. You can go listen to that. We
dumped on that movie.
we bust a gut over the fact that that the Old Boy remake exists,
and that it's a Spike Lee joint. That's what slayed me. I remember.
I know we cannot get back into this. Dude.
No, we can't. We can't.
But on the mention of remakes, because this will be something I grapple with my whole life. I hate remakes, but then I know hate is such a like strong word, but I really like, because of Old Boy, it's like, don't do this. Stop trying to remake Citizen Kane. Like, you don't need to do it. And it's like don't remake like King Kong. You know, we don't need that. Like, you're never going to improve on something that already stands as like monolithic. But then it's like I'm like, this is actually kind of a cool movie to have remade, because the Coen brothers took it from the book. And so it is almost like an adaptation where there is existing content
is.
before.
Oh,
There's,
sure.
so that's
I think that's the biggest way.
You get nitty gritty with the
Yeah.
classification, but
Yeah, well, I think I agree with you because it's like I would much rather just original stories all the time.
I know.
And
I mean,
unfortunately, we're in the minority these days of wanting just original things. That would be great. But it's like I can see like there are things like as a aspiring artist myself. We've talked about it. It's like if we wanted to remake something, it's like there's something that's beloved to us that is either been adapted poorly, and then we were like, no, someone needs to do this correctly, like the god awful Dark Tower movie, for example.
Yeah, right. That's a big one that comes to mind.
I mean, that one's so bad, it doesn't even make me mad anymore because it's just so bad it doesn't even register.
Right.
But like. So I get like trying to remake, quote unquote, by readapting, even though it's already been put to film before, to try and do it like justice to something you love, or like with the Blob, where it's like I want to try and bring something fresh to this idea, or maybe we have technology to do it better than we could have when it was made originally.
Maybe that's the rule. Is like. I'm happy if it's a remake of something that's like 40 years old, or like 50 years old, Yeah. Because I'm like regardless of how good a movie was made 50 years ago, it's like yes, the story will stand up and like cinematography can stand up, and film's classic, film never ages, but it's like sometimes it can be a little campy, or it can be just blatantly racist and like it astronomically racist and stupid, but it's like getting it modernized is fun, and it's cool to see that. But it's also like in another 50 years, what's this True Grit going to be like? What am I going to reflect?
Is interesting because
I think
nothing I hate
like,
more than like
a 6-year gap or something between movies, and you're like, what? You're like, why? Why would something that like was just adapted or made its original and then remake it?
Like we talked about this a little bit in the ramble too. It's like Let the Right One In and then Let Me In is like 2 years difference or something.
Yeah.
And it's just
I get
taking it and trying to be like I want to put it for American audiences, but also it's like fuck you.
No, that's right. That's not cool. It would be cool if they like remastered the original, or like remastered like a foreign one and maybe did a decent dub or something. I know. We got into that. And
just
anyways,
like if you can't, if you can't enjoy a movie because it has subtitles, then I guess you just don't get to enjoy that movie, and you're the problem. You're full of misery.
you're the problem. Don't worry. But no, I wanted to ask you, out of these adaptations that we've watched so far and remakes and whatnot, what ones have you seen the original?
Because what did we do? So we did The Departed.
I can tell you, Departed.
Not seen Infernal Affairs. I have seen The Blob.
The original Blob. The original Dread.
I've seen. Yeah, remember I saw the original Dread as a child, but I don't really remember it.
I don't count it. It'd be the only one that I've seen the original out of these four.
Yeah, I wouldn't rate it. If I can't rate it justifiably on Letterboxd and like have an opinion on it, then I probably won't count it. But
then I won't count it. Yeah, same. So I don't count it.
I've seen the scene from the original True Grit of like him with the two guns. I've seen that scene.
So
I think, and then what was the other? We watched one more, didn't we? Or is that it?
No. Departed, Blob, and then we have, and coming up now, we're gonna watch.
Yeah.
Most likely 12 Monkeys. I don't know if it's finished yet.
But I'm sure
we'll see.
That's it.
We're getting close to that.
But yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know. This movie though, I probably won't watch the original because the reason why I haven't is probably the same reason why you haven't. It's because I hate John Wayne.
I don't.
Like, don't get me wrong.
I don't need to support John Wayne in any manner.
There are good, like The Searchers is good, and I even enjoyed Rio Bravo to a point. Right? Is that it? Yeah. But I think part of it stems from back in the day in high school. We're Clint Eastwood guys.
That was the divide. That was the high school divide.
We're Clint Eastwood cliques.
We went to a film high school and like a charter school for film, and there was kind of that divide. It was like, what are you, Clint Eastwood side or John Wayne side? And I just always Clint Eastwood, dude.
No, always. Still
yeah.
always. And it's and I know I don't know why there's such a divide other than it's like John Wayne. I don't know. I think maybe if he said something, not that Clint Eastwood is fucking perfect either. No. Clint Eastwood's kind of a terrible person in his own right.
He's a misogynistic racist too. Yeah. But like he's like he has the white supremacy that we all do as being white. Where John Wayne actively was like, no, black people are less than, and he was vocally proud about it.
That's what came later, because originally back in the day I was like, Clint Eastwood westerns are just fucking better. He is the gritty. He's the gritty
westerns are better
man,
anyway.
Yeah, he's the gritty man with no name protagonist that I want, that shows the westerns in this light that I prefer. And then John Wayne is just like that clean Hollywood hero fantasy western that
he's wearing the white cowboy hat
that I did not prefer. And then like as I got older, I realized he's also terrible. So fuck him.
Right.
But yeah. Jeff. But like all the cast in this, all the acting was so fun because like Jeff Bridges always crushes.
Dude. They were having a fucking blast. Like, oh no, it's great, dude. So when
Jake's is occupied, like he's always just he's so good.
Yeah, dude. The comedy in this is like through the roof. When he bites his tongue and he like gets dragged around and like beat to shit, and he's like he got his tongue bit, and I love how he's like he still won't talk after he's been like dragged and shot and his tongue's been bit off. Yeah. He still speaks, but I know it's cool. He says he still spills the library, I think is what he says. Or still spills the English, I think is what he says, or something cool like that.
The dialogue and the quirkiness in this of them like snipping at each other is so good. Yeah. Like really that is what shines in this movie though, I think, is like the dialogue and the delivery of it. Like the acting to deliver. Like it's such tight fun dialogue, and it's like I love that old dialect, the way it sounds, and like they really pull it off really well. The like a little bit more formal way of speaking that everyone had to do, but just because of like limited language.
And the old English, I guess is kind of
that era of like 1800s English. Man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got it ready here. You want to hear it?
Yeah, please.
All right. So, Miss Steele 4545 says, okay. So I saw both when they first came out. To me, they are completely different movies, which I am sure was a consideration. They have nothing in common except a storyline, and even that is barely recognizable. Wayne's version was more hopeful and had a sense of humor, very bright cinematically. The 2010 version was very dark, both visually as well as the script, with no sense of hope at all. Like I said, I'm sure they bear almost no resemblance intentionally. How many remakes have we seen where the second tried to recreate the first and failed miserably? True Grit 2, it was TG2, did not make that mistake. I think that's interesting. See, but I think that this whole time we're like, this movie's a laugh riot. This movie's funnier than In Bruges. Laugh out loud comedy of the decade.
Honestly, though, for real.
Yeah.
But I'm never gonna let you live that down. In Bruges is the farthest thing from a comedy.
I didn't pick it.
It's categorized as a comedy.
We picked it randomly, sir. It was not my pick.
I know, I understand.
But I mean, In Bruges is an amazing movie, but a laugh out loud comedy it is not.
No, it's not.
Except for when he splattered on the pavement.
Except for the violently graphic suicide scene had me in stitches.
Yes.
Dude, are you kidding me?
You don't even want to know how many stitches it took either.
I know. Yeah. Oh my god.
But it's
dude,
so
go listen to In Bruges.
Listen to our In Bruges episode. But it's interesting because this person, it's like they do remember it being, because it is visually dark for sure.
Yeah,
that's what I was saying. It's like very muddy looking, which again is weird with the tone, which sometimes is really dark and fits that, but a lot of times feels very jaunty, very light on its heels, which does not fit the look of the movie. But that also, I think that ending plus the look of the movie is what it leaves you with, and that's why going back 12 years later after I originally watched it.
Jeez.
I was not expecting it to be as funny because in my memory, it is, because that lasting impression it leaves with you is like you said, you don't really remember much of the scenes. You don't remember that sharp, witty dialogue. You remember it looked pretty grimy. It's got this like revenge story, and it ends like super depressingly. And as he says, no hope, you know?
Right. And I can agree that it does leave you.
That's how
like,
it ends.
watching this,
it's like
watching this movie.
Pulls the rug out from you.
Right. Watching this movie without, if I just like, even probably my first time seeing it again, I'm like, if I could just go back and watch it again now, I don't know. I'd be like, I'd just try to watch it for what the story is. And the story is bleak. I mean, it's about a death and someone trying to chase somebody down to, you know, get revenge. But they just don't capture that like Unforgiven style where like revenge is never.
It's not a deep
isn't satisfying.
tale on like, it's not a deep like, oh, you know, an eye begets an eye and leaves everyone blah 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 blind. Like revenge is bad, and it also is not like that's the thing. This movie does not really leave you with much of anything, and that's I don't know if
kind
that's
of the hero saves the day.
I don't know
then
if
life goes on.
I don't know if that's the point. Yeah, other than like everything ends. And it's like nothing lasts forever, maybe.
Right. And what I appreciate though is that it's like we saw this whole adventure and it shaped her life, but like it was just this movie is just a flashback. It's literally
essentially she's telling it her from a voiceover.
It opens with her narrating it. Literally, it's a thought on the train to that town. It's literally it cuts when it cuts and shows her in the train. That's the whole movie is her thinking about this scene, thinking about this time in her life.
God, it's so sad though too when you think
of
it like that, because it's like her life. That was her greatest moment. And that's the most of the movie, and you're like,
and that's
here's all this potential but here's all this potential of like her growing to be this strong, you know, this strong, opinionated, independent woman, but that was the snapshot of her life. And then it shaped who she was, but she never did anything with it other than lose a fucking arm and be a spinster and then never see the two men that changed her life until she decides and has some kind of midlife crisis, decides to go see him, only to barely miss him by a couple weeks that he died.
No.
And then also be like, I don't know, maybe LaBeef's alive, who knows? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like, and she cared so much about him to move him to her cemetery. It's just like, that's sad too, because the whole movie you're like, oh, like she's learning, like she has growth, like she starts, you know, she kind of fakes it till she makes it, you know what I mean? Because it's like she starts strong, she's a lot of talk, but the whole time you're asking yourself as the audience, like, she could talk the talk, but couldn't she walk the walk? And she doesn't know either, and then it turns out she can.
Yeah.
But then it just like the ending, you know, for some reason she gets bit by a rattlesnake because there's like, they talk about snakes and they got to somehow have that come back.
And I mean, that's such an odd choice for me, but
it takes the wind out of like, she literally just completed her goal. And in the same instant, like she killed the man, she avenged her father. That should be a big moment. That is essentially the climax. That is the answer to the dramatic question. But in that same moment, the shotgun blows her back into a pit, and there's a new peril all of a sudden. That
and that's old school camp.
It is, but maybe I'm stupid, and it's just like that's the metaphor. That's the theme about like, you know, that's what you get. Vengeance doesn't pay. It's a fucking snake that bites back. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think to answer that, the tagline kind of sums it up. Honestly, which a good tagline usually does. It says punishment comes one way or another, and killing somebody is punishment. You know, like her killing him isn't, you know, quote unquote right. There's no like, you know, she got her vengeance that she feels was justified. And in that moment, it definitely was because she doesn't super.
She doesn't even. She doesn't even kill him in cold blood though. She literally wants to have him hanged by just.
Yeah, right.
But she kills him out of self-defense, and that's literally another moment that there's a joke in the middle of the super serious scene. Like
I know, yeah,
it's super serious. LaBeef is super intense, and he just shot, you know, Ned Pepper as he's about to kill Cogburn out on the field at a 400 yards. And he's
Yeah,
like, she's
right,
like, wow, 400 yards. And he's like, well, a Sharp's carbine is the best. And then he gets clunked on the head. And it's kind of funny, but it shouldn't. That is not the moment for that.
And that, yeah, it's like, yeah, all of it is
it's
played-
slapsticky. It's borderline
played
slapstick, dude.
Yeah, it's played comedic. And then we just I want to go out on my last comment before we talk about our favorite scenes. We can talk about that green screen for a minute.
Oh yeah,
I understand they did that because it was quote unquote paying homage. It's stylistic to the
It's
time.
her fever dream too of like she's
right. She's got because it's being told from her perspective, so it is like
surreal. It's like a surrealness.
Yeah, and I get what they're going for. But God, it just takes me out of it. It's such like a wet noodle, dude.
It's like our Western movie, Drift Me.
Which we should post. We should put that on YouTube, dude. We'll put Drift Me up on YouTube.
But Drift Me, where it's like we purposely dubbed over all the dialogue at the end, like with the world's shittiest microphone.
Yeah.
But it's a joke because Drift Me is
Drift
Me's a satire, kind of. It's a spoof nearly, and but it's like is this movie trying to be a spoof on westerns? It's not.
I think it's. It's like
they're like, well, we want to pay homage, so let's do this scene with like the world's worst green screen that is laughably bad.
Because I think like you nailed it when you said that they couldn't quite blur that line between like the slapstick and the serious, and I think that's kind of what it is too. They wanted to make this like really heavy important scene, but they wanted to be like, hey, we can homage. And we can have like dramatic tension,
right?
But the whole time I'm watching it, I literally am just like, I was like, Victoria, you got to see this green screen. Like I knew it was coming because it's like seared into my brain. I'm like, here it comes right here.
It just looks like laziness. Like it looks like someone fucked up.
So bad. Yeah, no, it really does. It feels like if I didn't, I mean, don't have it 100% confirmed. I haven't like watched like behind the scenes and they've said like, all right, we're doing like the John Wayne shot, because like John Wayne like notoriously wouldn't ride his horse. He'd like sit, to do like a lot of action scenes. He'd like sitting on it, getting pulled on a cart. And so it's like, which is kind of cool. Jeff Bridges actually did all his own stunts in this movie, which is pretty neat.
Good to know.
But anyhow,
Jeff Bridges.
He's kind of got his own things too. But anyways,
he does now. I like his acting. I like Jeff Bridges' acting.
Yeah. I separate the artist from the art.
Sucks,
sure
we got to do that.
We
got to do that nearly constantly.
I know, yeah, really.
Unfortunately,
but yeah. So they threw him up. They got it. They got their shot. It throws me out of it, and I don't want to say that's like it's not the whole reason I can't give this movie like a super high rating, but it definitely just like it bums me out. It's almost embarrassing when I don't want to suggest this movie as like
it seems amateur though. You're right.
Because I'm kind of like this isn't the strongest Coen Brothers movie, so I'm like don't watch it. But I'm almost like if you can just watch the first like 30 minutes before she leaves town.
The whole movie's good, but you said, it's the opposite of The Departed, where like The Departed was having all kinds of like sort of inconsistency throughout most of it, and then the last 20 minutes really kind of like brought it all together, was super tense and stuck the landing, which is what leaves the impression on you. This is the opposite, where it's the first hour and a half, and like the first half hour especially, it's like it's very tight, it's very strong, it's got strong characters, it's got the clear motivations, the plots there's a bunch of mild twists to their journey. You know what I mean? It's all very standard adventure stuff, but it is very well done and well crafted.
All the supporting actors are great.
It's well crafted. It's well put together. The jokes, though, are here and there, are funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they work. They are good.
The Coen brothers are good directors. They're amazing.
They are.
Kind of movie,
but it's like because of the very ending, it just takes the wind right out of the sails of their journey. Like you ask yourself, the beginning, like you said with the inciting incident, it states, for Maddie's character and for the story, who she's the protagonist, follows her and her quest for revenge. So she you ask yourself at the beginning, is she going to get revenge? How's she going to get revenge? Does it come about? Does she find him? Blah, blah, blah. Then when we get that moment is immediately undercut with this secondary drama that is totally something else. Then that peters out even more because you're like, oh, he cares. He actually cares, about her, and he's not so hard after all, and he's the he's the tough old cowboy with a heart of gold. And he rides the poor horse to death so that he can save her life, you know what I mean? And it's the sacrifice, and it's supposed to be this beautiful moment, but you're like, why did they feel the need to take these stakes that we already had high stakes and then rush them to the certainly other stakes to then just drop the stakes back down to zero with like, okay, here's a 5-minute resolution of years in the future where everything is just, mundane and nothing is fulfilled and everything. There is like the ending is saying there is no resolution and that's life. But I'm like, but this movie's not a story of like, well, that's not just life sometimes. Like if it was a story that had characters coming in and out, there's like resolutions that are never solved. Like there are a lot of movies, great movies that are like that.
Well,
this movie is an adventure romp, and it's just like,
yeah. Oh, I just kind of like was like, I was just kind of hit with like, oh fuck, it's like Unforgiven, like straight up it's almost. I mean, did they like use that as kind of a blueprint? Because it's like it's got that young kid and the old bounty hunter that's like coming back in, and then it's got like it ends similarly with like under a tree with graves. It's like kind of got that like that moral to it, but it's like Unforgiven. It's justified. I don't know. It feels. I guess it doesn't really. This movie just takes place with like her childhood, and so it kind of
feels like a real resolution. And it's like, if you listen to any of our episodes and any of our opinions, like we're okay with movies not having resolutions.
No,
we're okay with more ambiguous endings or more like bleak stories. Like I don't need to have everything wrapped up in a pretty bow for me, but the way that this movie is inconsistent with the rest of the story it's telling.
I think, I'm frustrated that she became like the damsel in distress. That kind of is just, it's like she didn't need to do that. They didn't need to do her dirty like that, dude.
Well, and it's like I never saw either of them again. Oh, and we're starting to run a little long, so we're gonna start wrapping up. But I just want to mention. I just want to mention real quick. What were you gonna say?
We have a few more things to get to, but sure.
We do. I was gonna say. Did you think it was weird? I do not remember at all the weird, slightly sexual tension between LaBeouf and her, Matt Damon's character, and he'd just be like he didn't know. He was all flustered. He's like, "Are you a woman or are you a child?" Because he's like, "I'm gonna spank you," but then he's like, "I might kiss you." Also, and then he's like, "You know what? Actually, I respect you, and you're more than just a little kid. Now let's touch." But never mind, because I don't know. So it's like you almost, and it's kind of creepy, but it's like for the time period, I guess it's not totally unheard of. I mean, people were courting 14-year-olds constantly back then.
Right.
And so it's like you would almost, I don't know if I would hate it.
To 2022, bud?
It's fair enough. But it's like, even if the ending was like, I met up with the beef later in life and we had a brief, like that almost would have felt better. Yeah. Like that would have felt more earned.
That was the movie too. I guess that's why it's the tonal. It is just, I felt like I was getting whiplash. It was like tonally just going everywhere. And I can appreciate her just kind of being like,
she's a spinster and all that. Like, it's fine.
Yeah. It's like they don't have like, but the fact that like she didn't even write him doesn't seem like her character. So it's
the fact that all this shit happened to her and she was so invigorated by it, she is so changed by it, but her actions do not show that in the slightest. She's just like, and then I did nothing for the next 30 years. You know what I mean?
Right, kind of. Yeah, really though.
And then it's like, okay, well, then what was the point of all that? That you had a fun little adventure once and you killed a guy and you lost your arm? Right. Like, you think it would have changed you more and made you more of this person? Which again, this is a heightened reality of film. This is like not, in real life. Yeah, sure. People never come into contact again with each other and stuff, but it's like in this universe that they've set up in this fiction, feels inconsistent.
The big reason is because she was very competent at wiring her like attorney and like being like she came from like wealth, and so I'm like she had a lot of resources at hand. The fact that like she did not try to reach out to them at all is kind of bizarre, because she knew their history and their outposts. Like he was a Texas Ranger. She could easily have written somebody, and found him.
That's the closest she's ever been to anyone.
It was like
her fingers.
So by the time then, dude, we were in the 1900s. So it's like, dog, you got like fucking the mail system was efficient. We were efficient in the 1800s with our mail system. Like,
seriously.
Anyway, that's nitpicky. Beyond the point. What was your favorite scene? What scene stood out to you?
No, I do like I thought the scene where he shoots that guy in the head was one of the few times where I had really good tension, and I did very enjoy that. But I do think the scene, and it's kind of longer than I remember. It's like over 5 minutes long, of her haggling with the guy at the beginning about the horses and stuff like that. Like, just that back and forth dialogue is so good. It's really great, and I might go back and just watch that.
Dude, it has it's got Deadwood vibes. Like, the fact that you haven't watched Deadwood, you're killing me.
I've watched the first season and a half.
Oh, okay. That's pretty much, there's not very much. But it's like, dude, that is amazing. That dialogue is
how about you?
Like, and then she comes back and she's like, oh, I think
wait,
yeah. Yeah, like he's sick and she's like, oh, well, you're looking at this in the wrong light. It's like, and he's just like, this town's making me sick. I don't know, man. Favorite scene, kind of tricky. I really like it's funny. It's a small scene, but when she rides, like her first show of courage, when she leaves the ferry and like just takes the horse across the river.
Little Blackie.
That is the old, Little Blackie, like that, dude. That I know. Yeah.
My wife was like, "Oh, that's a problematic name." I was like, "Yeah, you don't get it."
I'm like, yeah, well, it's the time. It's of the time. A black kid gave it to him, so it's cool. Don't worry.
It's cool. I know.
You can't be racist if you're comfortable around a black person. So, anyways, I just I'm like, all right, cool. But I do like that scene. That's really cute. When she's like, what's his favorite snack? And he's like, well, it's a horse. So apples, you idiot. You fucking idiot. But
tell him I said thanks. No, ma'am. I'm not supposed to speak your name.
I love that. Like, the kid works for the guy, the one that she haggled. But I like that first show of courage where she rides across. And then it's followed by a joke. Dude, this movie is a comedy. Like, she gets up and then Jeff Bridges goes, well, that's a tenacious horse. I'll give you $10 for that horse.
I know. And then Matt Damon is like, all right, well, you disobeyed, so I'm going to spank you.
Yeah. Well, right. No, I know. And then that whole like,
but not if I kiss you first.
Their whole it kind of was weird. He was like, I mean, the sexual tension obviously existed, but I do like how he's like,
subtle,
he's like,
but it's weird.
But he's like, yeah. Well, at the beginning too, he even says like, I would still kiss from you, but you're rude and you're ugly. Like, he said something like that, like you're homely, and she was like, well, I don't care. Like, I'd rather not you. I'd rather take the territory. But cool. Favorite scenes?
I thought you were gonna say your favorite scene was the green screen, but.
No, yeah.
It's the most memorable.
It's almost, exactly. I know, right? It almost comes full circle to being like, that's my favorite meta scene. If you want to get true technical, it's like, that's them like, showing film history. But anyway,
it's funny because we spent so much longer talking about that scene, that shot. That shot is literally like 2 seconds.
I don't realize it's not very long, but I just hate it so much. I hate it
so bad.
Oh my god, I would pass it in the street without any acknowledgement.
Oh my god.
Do you have Travis's
I'm pulling it up right now.
Let me do Money Minute real quick just to show everybody out there in the world. Curious. So you want to know why, or you want to know how this was the highest grossing Coen Brothers film? I don't know. If you know out there, visit us on Reddit r/Cult of Cinema Knowledge. Go to cultofcinemaknowledge.com.
Pop a comment on the movie page, whatever.
Go to the movie page, leave a comment. Go to cultofcinemaknowledge@gmail.com. Please, God, just let us know why this movie is the highest grossing Coen Brothers film ever. It was a budget of $38 million. pretty decent. I mean,
I was gonna guess
that's
30s.
That's what you're gonna get.
I was gonna guess.
Yeah,
Let's just start
it's like,
guessing. I want to guess because I'm trying to
oh yeah,
hone
you should.
in.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
I'm trying to hone in on like
And-
how much I think stuff costs just on an estimate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And there is kind of like a normal. But anyways, so it's like 38 mil. Then the surprising thing is it's their highest grossing American movie too. Like domestically, it made $171 million.
Dang.
And it grossed worldwide $200 million.
What the
basically
fuck?
basically $253 million. I don't know. We were just fucking hungry for Jeff Bridges or something. I don't
Dude,
know
what
how
the
this
fuck?
movie grossed so much.
That's
dude.
great.
It's like almost like $250 million. Like, are you
I would've
out
guessed.
of your goddamn mind?
I would-
It's like wild.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
I literally would have been like, okay, yeah, 100 million. Like that's good.
100 mil.
That's
150. Sure, I'd be like,
That's,
oh, that's
three
high.
times. That's 3 times the budget. That's a great turnaround. You know,
That's
what
a
I
great turnaround.
mean? For a western.
I think these Coen brothers are getting they're up to something.
Good
Like,
fucking god.
yeah.
Quarter
Yeah.
of $1 billion worldwide. It's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Well, you know what? Honestly,
Good
though,
for those. Good for them.
good for them. And at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we should watch like a real popular movie one of these times, like some Marvel movies or some Star Wars movies,
Yeah.
because it's like at the end of the day, like those are the kind of money that those movies make, and it's like I'm like, okay, I'm glad True Grit made that kind of money because
Yeah.
I feel like we do not live in a world anymore where a Western movie could swoop in. I don't know, but honestly, people might need that palate cleanser now. But I just saw The Northman, which I'll have to talk to you about later.
Oh
But,
yes, I know.
that one's tanking financially, and that's like another. It's an example.
And
of
that
like,
well,
oh,
that's
people
that's a
should watch it.
whole that's a whole different story in my opinion.
know,
I think
it's
it's taking. I think it's tanking because of its budget and its dude. Its distribution was a train wreck. Anyways,
Yeah, it's true.
that's for
We'll save it
cinema
for a
ramble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Travis, our number one fan. I don't know if you want to be called that, Travis, but it's true. You are.
Yeah.
In our hearts.
In our I just want to say that to you. In our,
Here is a voicemail he left for us. Hopefully you can hear it, Jordan. So shut up.
Hey guys, so I first saw True Grit in theaters when it first came out. Although I do remember watching it, I don't remember anything special. Fast forward 12 years and rewatching it was like a totally different movie for me. Great dialogue and acting between the 3 main characters really made an impression this time around. And the gripping opening monologue set the tone for a great story of vengeance. It's interesting how our likes and dislikes change over time. So my question for you two is, what are some movies that you originally didn't like, then after revisiting them years later, you changed your mind? Thanks.
Thanks.
Wow.
You,
Oh, thanks,
you
Sam.
actually
Yeah.
heard that then, huh? That's
I
good.
heard that crystal clear. That was perfect.
Yeah, why does that work sometimes and sometimes it doesn't?
I don't know.
even know.
I'm glad that it did this time, though.
Me too.
Travis, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad you liked it because honestly, I did. I know I talked probably a fair amount of shit this time around, but I do like this movie, and I liked it more this time than I liked it the first time. I left with a better understanding of why I didn't like it and its flaws. Like I understood more clearly why I had issues with it the first time, but I was able to see its strengths more. Like it's definitely it's like a fundamentally flawed film in my opinion, but an enjoyable one nonetheless. And I always got a soft spot for westerns in my heart, so I would recommend it.
Yeah, I actually was talking to Victoria about this. I don't like action movies like at all. Like I so seldom do I even care about an action film, and so it's like we're like Dread.
Dude, you're the ultimate hipster, man. You hate remakes.
I know. I know. I hate. Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
What was it? Found footage, like anything,
Yeah.
anything that's like remotely trendy.
I'm hella coming around to
You
found
are.
footage though now.
You're coming around.
And I've always liked westerns, like, but I guess that is kind of history. But it's like those are my westerns are kind of my like. That's like the action I like, and I think the reason I don't like John Wayne is because he's such a like insecure macho man that like he can't look. He's like Donald Trump or something. He like flumps around. He's like this fat pudgy bitch, and he just like always. But he's always got to like. He's like
make sure to make me look like the God's greatest gift. And
well, right,
like,
make me
you
look
are
like super capable,
Mr.
And it's
Wayne.
like, dude, you're like, yeah, you're. Oh my god, I don't know. You look.
No,
you look.
That is an apt comparison, sir.
And then
So what movie? Answer the man's question because I got to think about it.
Dude, I actually the first thing that came to mind, which is kind of silly, and I'm curious what the world has to think about this. Do you ever watch the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? The like 89 or 90 or no, 91 or something.
The one where they're
It's like New York. It's the introduction to them. You get to learn who they are, and like you get like it's like introduction to Casey Jones and shit. And so it's like April O'Neil is like she's pretty vulnerable, but she's kind of like badass, and she like gets with them, and they get beat, and they go back to that like they go to like the safe house, and they like it's like right after Splinter gets killed, and like it's fucking dude. I like watching it as a kid. I loved it because it's like they're like fighting and punching, and it's like the turtles and the ooze, and like I'm like loving it, dude. And the kids, oh my god, they're like spitting and smoking cigarettes and skateboarding, and so it's like
cool.
I totally like I based my whole entire life off of this movie. Like I grew up like riding bikes, and like petty crime is so cool, and I fucking dude, the movie's amazing. But watching it again I watched it like maybe I was in Utah, so God, it was like 5 years ago. And I was like, holy shit, this is like fucking really mature. Like it's got a lot of really decent like morals and like a really complex characters. It's wild. I'm almost like we should watch it somehow for the it could be not remake, I guess, but it'd be like an adaptation.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in 20 years.
You should watch it with like Emmeline, dude. It's
since I was a kid. I almost did because I think it's on like HBO or something.
Dude, the first one, and so I went through all three, and like the second and third are pretty campy, but dude, that first one, oh my god, it's got like there's a lot more maturity to it. It's kind of interesting. I like that. That was the first one that came to mind. I'm sure there's like
I can't think of anything. I'm trying to like look and see if movies I didn't like that then I rewatched and ended up liking. I know there definitely is some. Because the first one that comes to mind, like it's similar to yours, is like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where it's like, I didn't realize I watched it
appreciating
as a young, it's like I didn't realize I watched it as a kid and thought it was a lot of fun and it was goofy, and then it was older that I realized that it's actually just a fucking masterpiece.
Right.
I don't know. I don't have to think on that. I'm trying to look right now, but I don't want to go too long on trying. I will try and make a note, and maybe we'll think.
We can circle back to this next. Yeah, because that's a really good question. Like what?
I'm trying to think.
There's a lot of good movies that I like when I saw as a kid I didn't appreciate, and that's a little different than the question. But
I know there's movies that I watched and I did not really like, but then I was like under a scenario where it's like I was kind of forced to watch them again. Like my wife wanted to watch it, or like there was something, or probably even for the film club where I'm like, well, I'm going to watch it for the film club, but I didn't love it. And then I ended up watching it again, and I really liked it a lot more, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. And I'm looking at my letterbox, and I can't think of one either. So I'm going to have to ponder that. I can think of a lot of the opposite. Where movies I thought I loved, easier. And then I watched again, and I'm like,
like this,
I should not have watched that again.
Yeah.
That was unfortunate.
Sometimes the memory is fonder.
It's true. Anyway, let's nip it in the bud. What else we got? Are we missing anything?
No. Scene and yeah.
You got all that. Travis, I'll get back to you.
I guess we do that. If you liked this, watch this. Assassination. That'll always be if we watch a Western, it'll just be like, go watch Assassination of Jesse James.
See, this, you know what this felt more in line with? Is like Hell or High Water.
Okay, yeah, I actually kind of thought of that too. Or I'm just like, the Coen brothers, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs or whatever. What is that one? Yeah.
I feel like that's a better package, but I also feel like it's cheating because it's an anthology. So it's hard because it's like there are a couple that I would say are fine, but then there are a couple that are really great. So, but
really good. Oh, Rango's kind of a fun one.
Oh, dude, Rango's great.
Rango's really fun. That's got a lot of like silly comedy, but then it's like.
But Rango is Rango's a good suggestion, I think, because it is on the surface it seems like a kids movie, and it's got a lot of jokes and a lot of traditional kids movie. But that movie is beautiful too, and I'm pretty sure Roger Deakins shot that too.
Are you serious?
I'm gonna look it up because someone
look that up. gonna plug.
Do the plugs.
I'm gonna plug our the call in here. If you want to be part of our podcast here and drop us a line, you can leave us a voicemail at our just our Gmail. So it won't be shared or anything. When we listen to it, we don't have to play it on the air. We'll contact you and see if you'd like it played, or we'll just answer your question, keep you anonymous. Call in at 801-613-1501. That's our little phone number.
Thanks, bud. It is Roger Deakins.
That's fucking dope. Yeah. Of course, dude.
But that's why it looks so good. It's such a unique looking animated film. That really. Also, see, that movie I think walks the line a lot better because since it's animated and it's anamorphic animal characters, but it's shot in a way that's super gritty, and it is like a pretty brutal Western considering those circumstances. But it blends really well. Rango's a lot of fun, man. Yeah, watch Rango.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening. Check it out. Call out to our patrons. Check out next week.
If you go to Patreon and you just like type in like Coldest Cinema Knowledge Patreon, you'll pop up and we'll be like the first hit, and you can get our ramble, and you can hear us talk about other remakes and how we feel about that, and you can hear our other pal David
movies we're
chat.
watching. Yeah.
We got the Sticker of the Month Club, and we got Kylie, Landon, we got Thomas, we got Gloria on there, we got Cindy. It's everybody, dude. The whole gang's there.
The whole gang. Thanks,
help
gang.
us out. You help us create this sick content, and you get freaking stickers, dude, and the Plex, so you can watch all these movies.
And the Plex. I put all the movies on there. Yeah, check them out. Next week's movie is 12 Monkeys. Actually didn't check it, but I'm sure that's what it is.
I haven't seen it for a hot minute, and so
it's been a while. And honestly, I really was obsessed with it, and we talked about it briefly when we did Brazil a couple months ago, or however long ago that was. And it's one my wife said, I would actually want to watch 12 Monkeys. So I'm like, okay, I'm fucking down.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, that works out then.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. 12 Monkeys. Then we'll be done with the remakes, and we'll move on to the next thing, which we don't really know for sure what we're doing yet, but we got some ideas. So thanks for listening. All right, we're leaving now because we're going home. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thanks, Reagan. Bye.